I think we're live.
Yeah, well, they said we're live on Periscope, but it says, yeah, like
Someone said the show's back up, but I don't think the guys know that it is.
are they saying it's back up? Okay, just make sure here. I don't see it up though.
Yeah, I think they might have just been on Periscope.
Restream saying it's up. All right, now we got.
They said they can see it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's keep going then.
You got to stop going to happy hour before these shows, Lofty.
Dude, it cut out, and then after it cut out, it said OBS stopped working. So I don't know. It's kind of weird, but here we are. Anyway, what were we talking about? We were on Boston, Minnesota, and Martin Perez being a ridiculous price point.
Yeah, so I mean it's a ridiculous price point. There's not strikeouts in the Boston lineup. He's not a high strikeout pitcher. I think what you were saying before everything went crazy was that even when he was pitching pretty well to start the season, he still wasn't a great strikeout pitcher. He was just doing a good job of limiting damage overall. But that's still not the guy that you would want to pay 8,900 for, especially against Boston. So I think Boston pretty clearly one of the top stacks on the slate. They're kind of expensive, but it's not even like they're overpriced. Like 5K for Mookie Betts, 5,300 for JD. Neither one is something that you're upset about. $20 for Mookie on Yahoo, 27 even for JD. They're perfectly fine price points against Perez. So I think a really good spot for Boston. And then for Eovaldi, he's got good stuff. Like he throws really hard. If he could develop any sort of quality secondary pitch, he'd be a really good pitcher. But a brutal matchup for him too. You've got Minnesota with Kepler back in the lineup. No Jorge Polanco, but the top six hitters in the lineup all have power. CJ Crone hitting eighth has a ton of power. It's just a pretty appealing game for hitting, I think.
Who are your favorite bats from Boston?
Mookie's still just clearly mispriced at 5K on DraftKings. Even 20 on Yahoo is too cheap. Christian Vasquez hitting fifth at catcher, I think, is a pretty appealing option. He's hit for more power this year. I think that the projected lineup was for him to be hitting seventh and Travis to be hitting fifth, but they flip-flopped. So a nice lineup boost for Vasquez.
Okay, Minnesota on the other side against Eovaldi. Um, Eovaldi's made 7 starts, 18 appearances altogether out of the bullpen. It's been really brutal go of things for him this season. He's coming off an outing last time where he was decent. He was strong against the Angels, but all in all, it hasn't been that. Even out of the bullpen, he's labored a bit. He's given up too much power. Fenway Park hasn't exactly been kind to him at all in the limited work he's done there this season. Are you interested in Minnesota hitters too?
Yeah, not as much as I am Boston, but I do think that Minnesota is in a pretty good spot here. The problem, I guess, is that Fenway does play down left-handed power, and it is only 66 or 67 degrees in Boston. So not great hitting conditions. And at the top of the lineup, you have Kepler, Arias, Cruz, Rosario. So 3 lefties in the top 4. And since the start of last year, Eovaldi has allowed a 218 ISO to lefties, only 151 to righties. So ideally, you would get left-handed power against him. And you have some of that with Kepler and Rosario, but it's a mostly right-handed power lineup, and this park plays down left-handed power. So I like Minnesota a little bit less than Boston.
Okay. If you had to pick your top bats from Minnesota, though, would it be the usual suspects?
Yeah, Rosario, Cruz, Kepler.
All right. Toronto, Tampa Bay, Austin Pruitt, Trent Thornton. I mentioned to you at the top of our first stream, that Pruitt 25% on DraftKings, pretty incredible, man. Uh, if you were asked me, if you were to ask me, do you understand why? I mean, yeah, I guess so, because pitching blows. But is Austin Pruitt to you a top option? Because the field tends to think he is.
That took a lot of time in my deep dive article, like trying to figure out how to articulate what I think about Austin Pruitt. And I never really came up with a good answer because he's not an above average pitcher. He's thrown 48 in the third innings as a starter in the major leagues and has a 19% strikeout percentage. He's not anything special. Like he had a 23.5% strikeout percentage at AAA this year, but most of those appearances were out of the bullpen. He's facing a Toronto lineup that isn't consistently good, but they do have talent. If you look at 1-7, Bichette, Biggio, Grichuk, Guerrero, Tellez, Hernandez, Smoke, those are all hitters that are either top prospects or have proven track records of, at the very least, being power hitters. In some cases, being just well above average hitters, like Justin Smoke from the left side. So it's not like it's a team where it's not like it's the Marlins where you can take a below average pitcher and just say, yeah, it really doesn't matter. I don't know. I think that because of the lack of pitching on the slate, Pruitt is still appealing. He's 6,900 on DraftKings, so he's really cheap. On Yahoo, he is $33. So again, he's really cheap. You are not sacrificing much in the way of opportunity cost, I think is the biggest thing why it's easy to get him in the lineups. And it's a good park for pitchers. But it's also not a spot where you should feel very comfortable because you're just talking about a pitcher who's not very good facing a Toronto team that does have some pretty decent hitters.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So a question I ask you quite a bit, but I think it's relevant here. Where would you prioritize Austin Pruitt?
I would put him behind John Means. I think Means is a better pitcher. I think so. Right now we have Means and Pruitt at the same ownership on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So I would put him behind Means, but yeah, I mean, we have Pruitt at 21% now. We have Hernandez up to 18%. I like the spot for Pruitt a little bit better than for Hernandez. Chase Anderson's also 21%. We're still waiting on the Cubs lineup. That would make a big difference for me, and we'll talk about that, obviously, when we get to that game. But if we assume that we get the normal Cubs lineup, I would put Pruitt a little bit ahead of Anderson. So it's really like I don't like him, but I don't have better suggestions other than John Means either.
So let me ask you this then. How deep do you think Pruitt would even be allowed to go into this game?
He went 70, I think 77 pitches his last time out, and he went 83 the game before that. He's starting this game and not being utilized as a long guy. So I imagine if he's pitching well, you can get like 90 pitches out of him.
Okay. Yeah, I would say so. And then Means,
I think, should be
good to go, right? There are no real restrictions.
Yeah. 74 pitches his last time out, but 100. So the thing with Means, he threw 74 pitches his last time out, and the Orioles just decided to bring their bullpen in because why not? But before that, 100 pitches, 94 pitches, 95 pitches. He's fully stretched out. It's just a matter of if he happens to pitch really well and go deep into the game, they might just pull him anyway.
Right, no question. Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to. If I'm trying to do a tiebreaker, even though I agree with you that the matchup's just better for him, if I want a tiebreaker, believing that one guy can go deeper into a game than another at least makes me at least tips the scale enough.
Right.
Trent Thornton against Tampa Bay. Any thoughts on Thornton?
He's getting almost no ownership, which
I know.
He's at 10%, which on this slate at his price tag makes him appealing to me just because if you think that you can predict what games Austin Pruitt is going to pitch well and what games Trent Thornton's not, then you're either better than me or you're kidding yourself.
Same with Kyle Gibson, man.
Yeah,
that's
it's
my
just one
guy
of those where
he's the guy I can't get right.
Yeah, but it's just one of those where all these guys project pretty similarly. I think that there's a ton of pitchers that project for between 11 and 14 DraftKings points, and on slates like that, there is something to be said for just being willing to take the lowest owned guy and hope that he outscores the other guys, because it's going to happen often enough that it's probably worth it. Trent Thornton's not a terrible pitcher.
No.
You prefer him against right-handed hitters than lefties, and you have four. I don't know what Keon Wong is. You have either 4 or 5 lefties in the Tampa lineup, and so it's a pretty balanced lineup. It's a good park. To me, outside of the implied run total being 5.2 for Tampa and 3.9 for Toronto, what's the real difference between Austin Pruitt and Trent Thornton?
I don't know, but you said, I don't know what Keon Wong is. Not even who. Oh my God, that was great. Yeah, but I almost said, I said almost verbatim what you just said about Thornton, maybe like a month ago on a very similar slate where he was catching like 5% ownership in an equally, like in a spot pretty much equal to everyone else. And I don't remember whether he did well or not. All I know is that Trent Thornton's as capable of going out there and putting up 20 as Means or Pruitt, and he's as capable as giving you a 5 or a 3 as they are. So
yeah. Keon Wong is a lefty, by the way. Fangraphs has him as Tampa Bay's 41st prospect. So nothing that I'm too concerned about.
Colton's brother?
I don't know. Probably.
Let's see here.
I mean, it's K Wong. I just assume that it's his brother.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a left-handed hitting second baseman.
It's his brother.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty cool. All right. Bats
he projects
here?
for a 74 WRC plus according to Steamer.
Oh, that's great.
He's in his third year at AAA. 116 WRC plus, 157 ISO. But you have to remember that they introduced the Major League Baseballs this year. Last year, 124 ISO. The year before that, 095. Doesn't seem like he's any good.
Yeah. To keep it short, he's not that great.
Yeah.
Any hitters here interested in some Keon Wong action?
So the thing is, like, if you're not playing a $6,200 Thornton at really low ownership, you, I guess, are probably stacking Tampa because they do have a 5.2 implied run total, and presumably you think Thornton's not going to pitch very well. I think that there is some good value on Tampa. You have Joey Wendell leading off, 3,100 on DraftKings. Meadows is underpriced. G-Man Choi is batting cleanup at 3,800. There's a lot of really good value on the Rays, but we also have them projected to be overowned on DraftKings. So, yeah, I don't know. I think that Tampa's fine, but if I had to just choose, like, if we had to play this slate every single day for the entire season, I think you would make more money by being on the Trent Thornton side than being on the Tampa Bay stack side.
Okay. It makes sense to me. Let's talk about Tampa Bay. Toronto bats against Pruitt. Just because he's so owned, I don't want to glaze over it. I want to just quickly knock this out. So I kind of want to glaze over it. But is there anyone that you really like from Toronto? Just knowing that Pruitt, I mean, you said if you're not playing anyone against a $6,200 Thornton, well, what about a $6,900 Pruitt who's getting 25% ownership?
Yeah, I think Toronto is a pretty appealing tournament stack. You know, obviously they're not going to come through all that often. They have a 3.9 implied run total for a reason, but they're facing a pitcher that doesn't have great strikeout stuff. He's done a pretty decent job of limiting power, but nothing special. And you've just gotten really appealing price tags on the entire lineup, except for Bo Bichette. 4,700 for Bichette is fine, but you get beyond that, and the most expensive guy on the Blue Jays on DraftKings is Kevin Biggio at 3,700. You have a bunch of power from Grichuk at 3,300, Guerrero at 35, Smoke at 3,400, Tellez at 32. The park's not great, but I don't know. I think that they're underpriced given their matchup against a completely mediocre pitcher.
Makes sense to me, man. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports is the sponsor of the Deeper Dive. They got, of course, their baseball contests rolling them out every day, but the football ones is what you're really trying to get to. The $1 Million Baller, 100K to first, 25 to enter, and 10 max, no 150 mass multi-entry. It's a beautiful thing. If you haven't signed up, do it through us. Spotlight Hitters article. It's free at awesemo.com. If it's not on the homepage, just click on the MLB drop down to articles, and you'll see it right there on the landing page. Free article. Click the Yahoo link right at the top of it. It'll take you there, and you'll get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Rewards points when you sign up through us and deposit. So you sign up through Awesemo, you get up to $30 upon depositing to use on the site to play in week 1 to win some good money. And honestly, it's just with the way that they're doing the 0% management fee, Adam. I remember you and I actually discussing this last NFL season. You kind of just have to deposit and play on there based on how favorable it is for the players.
Yeah, especially for NFL, there's no opportunity cost to your time.
Right.
You're not adjusting lineups 2 minutes before lock or anything like that. Like there's no reason not to be firing these tournaments as a main priority this weekend.
Yeah, and if you have a smaller bankroll, there's plenty too. Good contest, low management fees, solid first place, solid payouts at the top, and a really cool free roll that is paying out a lot of money. I forget the exact number, but a lot of money to first place with the highest cumulative score at the end of the year. Yahoo Sports is also apparently you can stream NFL games, local and national, on their app. So check that out as well. A lot of stuff going on over there. Proud sponsor of the Deeper Dive. At least I think they're proud. I don't know. They should be. All right, Adam. Milwaukee, Chicago Cubs, Jose Quintana, Chase Anderson. What you got?
Still waiting on a Chicago lineup. I think that it's really, really interesting because it looks like Chris Bryant and Javi Baez are both questionable for this game. Chase Anderson has throughout his entire career done a much better job of limiting power to left-handed hitters than right-handed hitters. So if you take Bryant and Baez out of this lineup, it's a spot that's pretty appealing for a $6,400 Chase Anderson. But if you put Baez and Bryant in there, and suddenly he has to deal with Castellanos, Bryant, Baez, Contreras, and then the left-handed not easy outs of Anthony Rizzo and Kyle Schwarber, then it's a really, really dangerous spot where I like the Cubs a lot. So
did you just reference Birdman?
I don't think so.
Chris Anderson?
Oh, I mean, I said Chris Anderson. Yeah.
Oh, that's going in the way back, man. Go ahead. He's 41 years old now. I just looked it up.
Wow, that's crazy.
It really is. Sorry, go ahead.
Have you watched this, like the catfishing documentary about him?
No. Wait, hold on. What do we got?
So, and I barely even remembered it until I watched the documentary, but he was like kicked out of the NBA or basically like cut from teams because of this whole like sexual assault thing back when he was with like Denver. Like,
why do I not remember this?
Because he was like a nobody at the time.
Oh, so it wasn't like a front page story.
Right. It was like before he went to Miami.
So what did he do?
Nothing. I don't remember the entire story. It's like a whole convoluted thing where he was getting catfished by some woman that lived by herself in Canada and never left her house. But she was like pretending to be some like model in California. And it was a really, really twisted thing. But yeah, it's worth watching.
So she was catfishing before catfishing was cool.
It was like it was like original, like OG catfish.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like that documentary spurred the MTV catfish show. And, you know,
it was all around the same time, I think.
What's up?
I think it was around the same time.
Was it?
Maybe it was a little before. I don't remember how old the catfish show is anymore.
Yeah, I'm bad with time anymore, man. It's tough for me to remember much.
Yeah, I just assume like everything like that is like 10 to 15 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so what about this game haven't we discussed yet? You hit on both pitchers, right? So
I didn't hit on Quintana. He's 10,500. I'm not interested.
Okay. Do you like any Milwaukee bats against him? He's not like among pitchers on this slate. Quintana is not bad, but low Kane, very, 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 very cheap. I think he's 3,200 on DraftKings.
3,400. So yeah,
still
same
very
thing.
cheap.
Yeah, Grandal's 3,700, Braun's 39, Pena's 29.
Wow.
Perez is 27. I don't know who was supposed to be pitching for the Cubs today, but DraftKings priced it like it's Kerry Wood in his prime or something. So yeah, I do think Milwaukee gives you some pretty good value. On the top stack tool, we have them pretty significantly over-owned, which I think makes sense because optimizers are going to give you a lot of Kane and Grandal and Braun. So maybe not the most appealing full stack in tournaments, but
But not crazy ownership. I mean, it's not like they're through the roof. There's, I think, 6 teams with higher projected owners. So it's not like they're
right.
Kansas City last night.
Yeah, for sure. I think that they're good enough plays that if you need to get there as mini stacks or one offs, or stack them and just be contrarian somewhere else, you can certainly get away with it.
All right. Do you do you think Cubs bats here make a lot of sense? Right now they have the same ownership as top stack probability. They're like fourth in top stack chance today on Awesomo's top stack tool.
That I really like them if Baez and Bryant are in, and I like Anderson if they're out, because if they're out, then you're going to get like Addison Russell.
We have the lineup.
Oh, really? Mine just didn't refresh, I guess.
Chris Bryant batting third.
Yeah, and Baez is in. Okay.
Baez
so yeah,
batting fifth.
Yeah, I see it now. It just hadn't refreshed for some reason. I really like this Cubs lineup then. I think that I would prefer them over Anderson, because I think that Castellanos, Bryant, Baez, Contreras are all great options. Schwarber and Rizzo are both fine. I actually really like this Cubs lineup. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that between me refreshing it without the lineup and now having it, the implied run total went from 4.7 to 5.
That quick?
Well, yeah.
Well, we don't know how long. You don't know how long it was out for,
right,
without you refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chase Anderson. If you remember last year, his home run rate at home compared to on the road was insane. Hasn't been the case this year, but he is just the epitome of like a middle to back of the rotation righty.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see anything that's all that imposing here. Yeah, Chicago definitely stands out as a very interesting stack tonight. And again, ownership, really like the same ownership coming in around the same ownership as Milwaukee, similar ownership to Texas. A lot of these teams are in this like 6 to 9% range today, which is kind of interesting. Maybe it'll be a little bit different. I guess we'll have to see. What are your thoughts on Atlanta and Washington? Strasburg getting big ownership. I understand why. But you said earlier you don't see him being like a must play. It's not like this is a good matchup, man. It's just that he's the only really good, reliable pitcher on this slate. But you're getting him at 41% on DraftKings, 24% on FanDuel, your highest projected pitcher, and then 50 on Yahoo as the highest projected arm as well. So clearly the top projected owned pitcher on this slate against the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I think that this game has the two best pitchers on the slate in terms of talent. But the problem, there are a couple problems for Strasburg. For one, the weather here is conducive to hitting. It's going to be in the upper 80s, close to 90 degrees in Atlanta. The wind's blowing out 10 to 15 miles per hour. And, a month ago, that wouldn't matter. But this time of the year where it's getting cooler in a lot of places, the ball's not going to fly in those parks where it is going to fly in Atlanta. So it's a bigger issue. And then on top of that, Atlanta's just got a really good lineup, excluding Max Fried. So the 8, actual hitters in the lineup against right-handed pitching this year, they have an average strikeout percentage of 20% and an average WRC plus of 110. So just a really tough spot for Strasburg, and the weather doesn't help that. I think he is the top projected pitcher. It's just that it's not by a really wide margin. And if people were going to shy away from him, then, by all means take the talent. But for me, if he's going to come in, so I guess now we have him at 28%. He was at 40 earlier. So that's a more reasonable price point. I think that makes more sense, but it's still not someone that I'm looking to jam in the lineups. It's just that obviously if I have the money left over, I'm going to prefer Strasburg to someone like Wade Miley or whoever else.
Yeah. I think you're going to see a lot of like Strasburg, Pruitt, Milwaukee stacks.
Yep.
Because they're so easy to get to. Deeper Dive is the sign-up code to get 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus subscription, by the way. Ownership projections, player projections, the top stack tool, all of which have been developed by Awesemo himself and used by himself every day. People say, oh, dude, Awesemo doesn't put his real projections up there. No, he does. Like, these are the projections he uses 100%. All of our premium articles. Adam alluded to the deep dive earlier, the lineup builder, and so much more. So go ahead and head over to awesemo.com/join. Brand new landing page too for our subscriptions to tell you exactly what you're getting. Video tutorials, so you're not getting into this. You're not coming in blind. We'll tell you exactly what you want. And we got some very, very affordable weekly passes too if you just want to dip your feet in. When you sign up, if you're doing the all access monthly though, use the sign up code DEEPERDIVE, all one word. It'll get you 50% off your first month. Okay, Max Fried, what are your thoughts? I know you love this guy. He had that 11 strikeout game. Got into some choppy water towards the end, but it didn't matter against the White Sox. Much more difficult matchup against the Nats team that is a lot better against lefties than they are against righties.
Yeah, just a really, really brutal spot for him. Obviously has the same weather concerns that we have with Strasburg. He's the best among qualified starters in barrels per batted ball event this year, has the lowest percentage allowed. His strikeout percentage has been ticking up as he's been throwing his slider more recently, and he's got one of the better curveballs in baseball too. He's got great stuff. I love him as a pitcher. The problem here is just that it's a really, really tough matchup. Obviously, we mentioned how difficult it is for Strasburg against Atlanta, but Washington's lineup since the start of last season against left-handed pitching, an average strikeout percentage of 19.9%, and that's with Michael A. Taylor striking out 39.5% of the time. So if you like ignored the 8-hitter too, you're just getting like no strikeouts anywhere. Brian Dozier has the highest strikeout percentage among the other 7 hitters at 20.3%. So that's really, really low. And then they have a 114 WRC plus. Michael A. Taylor is the only hitter below 100. Average ISO is 190, and Michael A. Taylor is at 121. So 1 through 7, it's just a really, really tough spot for Max Fried. I think that he's obviously a better play than Martin Perez. I don't mind getting to him in some lineups just because of the lack of other options and because I do think he's the second best pitcher in terms of talent on this slate behind Strasburg. But it is a really, really tough matchup, and there's obviously a lot of risk.
Right. Yeah, there is. I think his price is still reasonable. Where do you prioritize him among all pitchers? Sorry.
So he's 10% owned on DraftKings right now. I think that if he's going to come in at 10% and Quintana at 10,500 is going to be a little bit higher owned, Agrizal is going to be a little higher owned, Hernandez is higher owned. I think that I would end up like Strasburg would be the guy in those lineups where I can get him in without it really costing me anything. I think Wade Miley is a perfectly fine play. Pruitt is okay. I have means ahead of Pruitt. And then Fried would be like my favorite mid-range guy. Like I would rather get Fried than Allard, I think, if they're going to be the same ownership. It's not someone that I think I would get tons of, but I think that I would get more than 10%.
All right. It's not fun, but this matchup for Wade Miley is really solid. We're going to talk about that next to close it out. But what are your thoughts on hitters from either side first?
A lot depends on ownership since I think both pitchers are so good. Right now we have Washington, their top stack percentage matches up perfectly with their ownership percentage. Atlanta is going a bit over-owned. So if people are going to go there just because, people like to target against more popular pitchers, both teams have decent implied run totals, then I would rather just allocate more of my exposure to teams like the Red Sox. But if that ownership in the final ownership update comes down, then I do think the Nats and Braves are both interesting tournament options, especially the Nats because their lineup's just so good, 1 through 7. The Braves get the Nats bullpen behind Strasburg. So I think it's a pretty high upside spot, but right now it looks like the ownership's getting there enough where I wouldn't prioritize them.
All right. So talking Seattle and Houston. Wade Miley has been solid this year. We talk about run prevention standpoint. He's been very good. Not a particularly high upside pitcher, but here he is, and he's been decent enough. The Seattle Mariners the only way to put it is this team is not. They started off the season with so much power in this lineup, but they're a skeleton crew now. They're depleted from where they were before. They're running out 4 lefties again against the lefty. Their righties are Dylan Moore, Austin Nola, Tom Murphy batting 5th, and Tim Lopes. And Braden Bishop. Your lefties are Fraley, Vogelbach, Seager, and Gordon. This is if there was ever a spot where I said, yeah, Wade Miley actually has a decent amount of upside, uh, I do see some in this matchup. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to pay for him.
Yeah, and the thing for me is that he projects similarly to Quintana and to Strasburg, but he's the cheapest out of the group. The Mariners have a 3.5 implied run total. They have a little bit of power with guys like Nola and Murphy, but Miley does a pretty good job of mitigating damage anyway. He has the fourth best barrels per batted ball percentage in baseball among qualified starters, and overall the lineup is just really bad. I think Tom Murphy's a really good play. I think Austin Nola's fine, but I never like Miley at this price point, but on this particular slate, I think he's a pretty good option.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. I think you could do a whole lot worse, like Marco Gonzalez.
Yeah, exactly. I actually looked it up at the end of the strategy show this morning, and looking on Baseball Savant, if I counted correctly, I'm sure I could have been off by one or two, but Marco Gonzalez overall, or Marco Gonzalez against right-handed hitters this year, if you take the spray chart of balls in play and put them in Seattle, he would have allowed 13 home runs to righties. If you put him in Houston, he would have allowed 25. And that's because he pitches to contact. He gives up a high pulled percentage and he gives up a lot of fly balls. And you have the Crawford boxes in left field, which while Houston overall isn't a good park for hitters, it is good for right-handed home runs because you have kind of like the Green Monster in left field, except not 38 feet tall. So you can kind of just hit pop-ups to left field and it's a home run. So it's a really tough spot for Gonzalez to pitch, I think. And then you factor in how good the Astros are. No George Springer in the lineup is unfortunate, but you still have Altuve, you have Bregman, Gurriel's hitting fifth. Kyle Tucker is in the lineup. Doesn't look like he is in the DraftKings player pool or the FanDuel player pool or the Yahoo player pool, which sucks. But yeah, I think Houston's a pretty interesting stack.
Okay. Well, I guess I have to ask you, any Seattle interest whatsoever?
Not really. Nola, I do like Tom Murphy a lot. I think Nola's an okay value. I just don't really know that you need it. I do think Murphy's one of the best catching options, though.
Okay. Top stacks on this slate. Who do you have? And give me a couple.
Boston, Houston. So Boston, Minnesota look like the two best stacks as far as top stack percentage compared to ownership. And then I do also like the Cubs a lot because they're running out a really good lineup and Anderson's getting some ownership.
Yeah. I would really like Milwaukee just because they are so damn cheap, but I feel like it's going to be hard to get away from the field if you're doing that. And then if I'm playing Milwaukee, I'm probably paying for Strasburg. So a little bit less enticing there. If you didn't get into the giveaway, by the way, check that out. It's at Awesemo_com on Twitter, Awesemo NFL. It's the pinned tweet. You got to get it in before lock of tonight's game. All you have to do is like it, retweet it, and respond with how many passing yards you think Aaron Rodgers will throw tonight against the Bears, and you're entered to win a free NFL all-year subscription. So a full season NFL subscription, Awesemo Plus. It's a $249 value. Just like, retweet, and give your answer on how many yards you think Rodgers will throw for. Like I said yesterday, you could say 14, and you're still entered to win as much as the guy that says 270 and hits it right on the head. You just got to enter. Also, to do so, follow Awesemo_com and follow Awesemo NFL and follow Ship My Money and follow me at Laffy_D. The last two are not requirements, but we'd appreciate your support. So,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the site that I was looking at is just completely wrong. Kyle Tucker is 3,700 on DraftKings. He is in the player pool on FanDuel. I'm not sure what his price was, but Kyle Tucker apparently is in the player pools. The site I was looking at is just not correct.
Okay. Makes sense to me. That'll do it for us. Rounded out a full hour on a 7-gamer. That's what talking about chicken wings and blue cheese will get you, huh? Anyway,
yeah, and Birdman.
What's up?
I said in Birdman.
And Birdman, that's right. Yep. And the stream cutting out doesn't hurt. But
yeah.
all how we planned it. Hey, that'll do it for us. Live Before Lock is coming up next. It is on. Josh isn't producing today, so just go back to the Awesemo channel on YouTube and click on it when it goes live, or sit there and wait around until it goes live. Tonight, you've got our boys Jake Hari and Chris Spags taking you up to lock. And hey, before you head out, hit us with that thumbs up, like the video if you do enjoy it, of course, because it helps us. We really appreciate it, and you're helping to support all of us at awesemo.com so we can continue to produce this free content that we all love so much. Subscribe, hit that notification bell as well. Till next time, we'll see you back here. Adam and I will close out the work week. Actually, no, I'm not on the show tomorrow. You are, I believe, with Josh. And you're going to the Orioles game tonight, so enjoy it, fella.
Will do.
All right, see you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive. Peace.